Hi, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Kizz, and you're watching my Nerdy Weight Loss Chronicle. This segment will be looking at my origin stories, or what key considerations we want to look at before we decide what diet we're going to go on, what kind of calorie intake we should be looking at, or what kind of physical activity we need based on our lifestyle. This is the first in a couple of different segments that are going to cover origin stories, my origin story, my previous battles against the obese, and also my origin story for the obese itself. So thank you for watching, and without further ado, I give you the next episode in the epic struggle.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that. I think she's feeling me, turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her body gets the best of me. Oh gosh, she's such a tease, bitten lips, bruised knees. I'm addicted to her, need her touching me, cause she got a bad little waist. And we tearing down this place off the liquor that we chase.
Hi, and welcome back. I hope you liked episode number 2 of the Chronicles for my weight loss, the Kizz versus the obese. And like I said earlier in the video, this is going to be my origin story. So we're going to take into account some of my statistics and my background so that we can properly consider what we're going to do for my diet and exercise. So let's get started. I'm a 38-year-old female, born female. 38, I know I look great for my age, only about 63. And I stand at about 155 centimeters tall, or for my American friends, that equates to about 5 foot 1.5 inches tall. And I currently weigh 105.4 kilograms, or for my American audience, that would be about 232 pounds. Let's just take a moment and let that sink in. That's shocking. Okay. So that puts me at a BMI of over 43, which definitely firmly in the obese category. That's one of the things we need to consider when we're looking at how much weight we need to lose and how much we need to lose in order to be a healthy weight. Now, I take that with a bit of a grain of salt because I have historically been a very heavy person. Even when wearing a size 2 US, I was still about 120 pounds. So I'm a very stocky, very muscular and solid person. So even if I might weigh, much more than your average person, I might still wear the same size clothing and have a different looking figure. So for me, I'm not going to go wholly off of BMI or wholly off of weight. Those are just going to be my guide going forward as a way to have a rough estimate of where I need to go and how I need to get there. As mentioned in my previous video, I live in Brisbane, Australia, and this has an impact of what I can do in terms of my dieting, my weight loss, because it has an impact on what products are available, what services are available, and what kind of support network I've got around me. So for me, I have very few people around me in my inner circle who would be very supportive of a weight loss regime, just because I'm not very close to many people in Australia, apart from my husband. So my family is all residing in the US, which means any support they give me is generally online. Thankfully, we have Facebook, and the technology age has brought us the ability to be close with people in distant lands, near and far. And it's really helped my relationship with my family not slack off, and them to be able to be supportive of any weight loss journey that I'm doing, even if it's not in person. So the next consideration is family history. And for me, family history has to do with DNA. It has to do with your culture and your influences. So for my DNA and my heritage, I am Caucasian. I'm sure you can tell from my ghostly white skin. Wish I could get a tan. But my family comes from mostly European countries, whether that's England, Ireland, Scotland, Croatia, Poland. So historically, looking back at my family in terms of how my family on both sides are built, not many of my family on either side get above 5 foot 8 inches tall. And we are all very solidly built, very thick people around the middle. We might still have some curves, but it's mostly very solid, very muscular people, very heavy and I guess anchored to the earth, if you want to say that much. So for me, again, I have to consider that in my weight loss goals. I'm not going to be a thin movie star look. When I do get to my healthy weight and my healthy eating, I can say from my past history that 120 pounds is just right at the tipping point to where if I go any lighter than that, my ribs start hanging out in the front and the back. So I'm aiming for anywhere from between 120 to 140 pounds. So for me, I'm aiming for about 60 to 65 kilograms. Now, that's my personal goal. I know if we go online and we search BMI, that will put me slightly into the overweight category. But again, we're not really going off of the numbers that and judging by the average person because everybody's shaped differently, everybody's built differently, and some people have heavy bones. I know where I'm from, we hear a lot of people joking around and saying they're big boned. But some people actually do have heavier bones, and some people carry a lot heavier musculature under the layers of fat. I'm sure mine's down there somewhere. And yeah, so this family history is going to give you an idea of what your ideal body that's realistic is going to look like. And for me, that's unfortunately going to be a short, stocky person, even when fit. So that was definitely my consideration there. The next thing is going to be DNA. And when you have a lot of different illnesses in your family, a lot of disorders, it's another thing you need to take into consideration. Does your immediate family have blood pressure issues, for example, or diabetes? For me, I don't have diabetes in my family, but I do have a history of high blood pressure and hypertension in my immediate family. Now, I'm actually the opposite, and I have very low blood pressure. I think a doctor at one point told me I was a dead fish because he couldn't get a reading. So historically, I actually have to get my blood pressure taken manually and not by a machine because I have a hard time getting a reading off of a machine. So again, these are the considerations and the familial considerations that need to be made so that you know what your risks are, what your strengths are, and what your weaknesses may be when you're embarking on a weight loss journey. I currently work a very sedentary job, which is wonderful for me. I enjoy sitting there and doing a lot of reading and connecting the dots. It's a very investigative role in some ways and identifying patterns. So it's the work I really enjoy, but unfortunately, it means that I'm sitting on my rear most of the day and I'm not big on taking breaks because once I go down that rabbit hole, I don't want to come out until I'm done. So for me, I really need to take into consideration how much I am or am not doing during the day and either get up and start taking breaks and incorporating that into my routine or making up for it in other ways outside of work hours. So that's going to be an interesting one, again, because I've got the broken leg. So very sedentary anyway, even more so now. So that's going to be a big consideration going forward, both with the broken leg and once I'm back at work. Next, we come to physical activity. I think it's really important to enjoy what you're doing for physical activity so that it doesn't become tedious and a chore. I mean, there are going to be days where you just don't feel like doing anything, but you need to get it done. And unfortunately, those days are always going to exist no matter what you're doing, no matter what it is that you enjoy or how much you enjoy it. But we want to try to keep that minimized as much as possible. So for me, I really enjoy running. Unfortunately, running is not going to happen with me. Not at 105 kilos. That would be a huge impact to my joints, and my cardio definitely wouldn't keep up at this point, and I have a broken leg. So that's something I've ruled out for now. I'm looking at starting running when I'm a bit lighter, and I'll assess that as I go and how strong and capable I think I am at the time. And it'll be once I go back to the gym because I don't like running on concrete. I feel it's just too much on your joints. I much prefer running on a treadmill where I can multitask. I can play a game in front of me on the screen at the on the treadmills at the gym, and I can watch something with subtitles up on the TVs in front of me, and I can listen to music all at the same time. So I really like having that aspect of having my brain busy and distracted when I'm running, but I do love a good run. I used to do running on our treadmill at home when we had one in a bigger place. And I used to run and do high impact interval training. And I really enjoyed that. And my best run time was 5 kilometers, which is not huge, but it's still a good amount. It's over 2 miles. And I used to do that in just over half an hour. I was trying really hard to get under half an hour, but didn't quite get there before I had other health issues come up. So I really enjoy that, really want to get back to that, but that's in the future. In the last couple of years, my husband and I have really been into weightlifting. We do joint personal training sessions where we both go in, we see our personal trainer, and he caters our sessions to our physical needs and capabilities, because obviously my husband is a lot better with some things than I am, and I'm better at some things than my husband is. So we do similar exercises or the same exercises when we can, and otherwise we cater it to whatever capability and weight we might be on. Over the last few years, I've seen my lifting abilities really stride forward very quickly, despite having several bouts of injury that ironically were not related to working out. They were usually I kicked a couch, I hit my foot on a door, usually foot injuries with the toes. So that put me out. So it's been really interesting because it's like 4 steps back, 3 steps, 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, 2 steps forward. But I am actually seeing a little bit more results the longer I can go without injury, to the point where I can deadlift 100 kilos now. And on the leg press, I can do whatever the machine weighs and 250 and have a fair good, go at it with several sets of 12 or more. Rather than just being able to do it once. So I'm really enjoying the weightlifting. It makes me feel strong, it makes me feel capable, and I do know that strength and resistance training is recommended by many professionals at least twice a week. So for me, I really enjoy that. I think I just need to add some more cardio. That being said, again, broken leg, which means that I'm not going to be doing any real weightlifting at the gym. I've put my gym membership on hold for a little while until I'm a little bit more capable and I can get up the stairs to get in the gym. So once that happens, it'll be much easier for me to get back into some strength and resistance training. Because I do miss my PT. My husband's still going without me, so I'm sure he's going to far surpass me in everything. I thought I was better at him. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how far back, if at all, I go, and how long it takes for me to make up that amount of time. Hopefully, with some of things like push-ups and whatnot, I can actually, even at 105 kilos, do up to 60 push-ups, and not the girly type. I'm talking the type on your toes. So I am quite a strong person, but we'll see with the weight loss. That might make things a lot easier, and maybe I can do a fair few by the time I get back, and I won't suffer as much as I think. That would be ideal. But for the meantime, in the immediate future, I need to start looking at doing some seated videos, particularly cardio. And if I can find some body-based weight and resistance training that I can do at home with a broken leg, I'll definitely be looking into that. So for me, I'll be thinking more along the lines of seated workouts. I know I've already started one. I've been researching this, and I've got a pretty good idea of what's out there. So we'll go over that in a future video. In addition to all the other factors, I think that the culture and the people who surround you are a big influence on your weight loss journey, and it will definitely be a big influence on mine. Like I've previously said, my husband is not a good dieter. He's not really good at healthy eating, and he can be a rather bad influence at times, eating junk food right in front of me and then offering me some. I don't mind the eating it in front of me, but it's the offering it to me where I crumble a bit more. And with my son, I don't think he eats anything with nutritional value without being forced. So it's really going to be hard with the people I'm surrounded with who aren't necessarily eating the same things as I'm eating or aren't wanting to support the diet I'm on. I'm not sure what that diet is going to be just yet. But I do know that anything even remotely restrictive is just definitely a no-go with most of my family. I think I tried low carb, not keto, just low carb a few months ago, and my husband agreed to join me on my low carb adventure. And he made it to 9 a.m. before he broke down and had cereal. We thought, okay, one slip up, no big deal. What are you having for lunch? Sandwiches. Okay, so that's just that's just my husband. He is not very good with sticking to a particular diet. I'm hoping maybe if I do a fair amount of the food prep and the buying, that perhaps he'll just kind of be forced to follow along. If there's no junk food in the house that he likes, maybe he just won't eat it. That being said, I am a fiend for chocolate. And because I do have a child in the house, chocolate is definitely always in the house. And so, yeah, it's definitely something I'm just going to have to keep my resolve about or really watch myself. I also do know that for me, we celebrate everything with food. So, Vincent has his last day of school for the term. Let's celebrate. Let's go to whatever takeaway. Or somebody graduates from university. We had that last year. Let's go out to dinner. Someone has a birthday. We go out to dinner. We go as a family. We go individually. We go every time we celebrate, it involves food. We even started having people over just to celebrate things where I did the catering, but again, it's all about food. So we're going to try to have to find something where, sorry, you're hearing my son in the background, it's not Wales. We're going to have to try to find something that we can do to celebrate that isn't so food heavy, or if it is food heavy, having those healthier options and making it a little bit easier to make good choices. And again, I'll look into some of the psychology in that in a later video and do some research. But I'm just identifying what's going to impact this weight loss in terms of my family. I am also an emotional eater, so I get sad, I eat, I celebrate, I eat, I am bored, I eat. I don't like your face, I eat. I will eat to cope with anything. So, again, it's taking into these considerations the culture you're surrounded by and whatnot that are important. One more thing I want to bring up, that I am a non-smoker and I don't drink. I don't judge anybody else who does. I just have family members who are severely ill due to a history of smoking, with lung issues, and one's passed away. This is not something I even ever wanted to try, and I've never even tried a cigarette, nor am I ever really going to. In terms of alcohol, I do have alcoholism that runs in a side of my family, and we don't do alcohol in our house, not because we're afraid of it, but actually because I'm a really lousy drunk. So I get through about half a bottle of Corona beer because that's the only thing I can deal with the taste of. And I need to take a nap. I'm not funny. I'm not giddy. I'm not happy. I just lay down and I go to sleep. My face turns bright red and it's nap time. So I'm not a fun drunk. That's not how I, release my stress so that I can have fun. For me, that's just something that knocks me out and makes me feel horrible the next day. And I'm also a severe lightweight, obviously half a bottle of Corona. So with other people suffering from alcoholism in our families, We just don't do alcohol in our gatherings or our celebrations, and we just don't really do it in our house at all. So if you like drinking, more power to you. I do know that's a big impact on weight loss. A lot of people I've read about online, they cut out just alcohol and they lose weight. I really wish that was the case for me because that seems like something that I could so easily give up. But because I don't do it anyway, it's not feasible for me to give it up to lose weight. My next segment coming up will be a little bit more about background for me. And then the following episode after that is going to be about the obesity backstory. And so this is where we get a bit more creative and have a little bit more fun with it before we go on to other matters. And once we get through the planning stages and the considerations, then we'll do our weigh-in and measurements. I'll try to post those up shortly because I know if you're watching, you're probably pretty curious about, hey, she knows how much she weighs, she's already weighed herself, and what are her measurements? I can just say they shouldn't have shocked me because I know what I look like in a mirror. But seeing myself on camera and getting the actual numbers and the measurements were actually quite shocking to me just because I have historically been a yo-yo dieter, but I've never quite been this large, even at this weight. So this is not the biggest I've been. I think I was 114 kilos, so that's probably about 250 pounds previously when I first moved to Australia. And that's just something I'm going to have to deal with. It's done, it's over with now. Let's move on, let's fix it. I did want to bring up, now that I say since I moved to Australia, I was really large when I moved to Australia. It was the heaviest I've ever been. And I bring this up because food in Australia is so different compared to what I grew up with in the US. So in the US, I grew up with vegetables that were gigantic, like an onion was literally the size of my head. But it didn't have any flavor. It was just like crunchy water with a slight onion flavor, maybe. And so my growing up, my actual food intake in terms of vegetables might have vegetables in there, but they're usually smothered with something, whether it be cheese or sauce, to give it some sort of flavor, because who wants to eat crunchy water? If I do that, just eat ice. It's much cheaper. So when I came to Australia, things here are done a little bit differently. Vegetables are not so injected with water or modified in that way. I don't know all the finer details about genetic modifications. I know that all vegetables these days are genetically modified or tinkered with in some way, but I also don't know what that has to do with why the vegetables in the States were gigantic and the ones here are what I would consider a normal size that you would see in a book, in a picture, or in a movie. I just know that when I moved to Australia, I discovered vegetables that had flavor. So that really changed up my eating habits to include a lot more vegetables. And I'm hoping to really draw on that and my enjoyment of the flavor of vegetables to really incorporate those into my diet as opposed to some of the more processed carbs. And I think being in Australia will generally help. I know if you were in the US, this may be a little bit trickier to do if you were looking at vegetables, because I think there's a place called Trader Joe's and a couple of other really great stores that sell all organic that might cost you an arm, a leg, and your firstborn. So I really don't have advice on that. I haven't been back to the US in 15 years nearly. But I'm sure I could look into that if anyone's interested. Leave me a comment if that's something you want to hear more about. Or if you have any questions for me, or any considerations you think I might have missed, I would love to see that in the comments. Maybe I could address that in a future video, or maybe even incorporate that into my considerations. Even if I start doing planning before then, it is something, I'm a fluid person, it's something I can incorporate into a work in progress. I'm not going to be stuck in stone. I want to develop with the knowledge I gain and utilize it in the best way I possibly can. So that's going to be it for me for this segment. Again, if you like this video and you love the Star Wars bit and the creative bit, give this video a like. If you want to see more like it, please subscribe. There's going to be more videos I'm aiming for every day until I catch up to the planning process and my weigh-in, and then it'll be weekly if not a little bit more often. So if you want to see more of it, please subscribe, hit the notification bar if you want to be notified every time I put up some new content, and so you can watch it right away. And thank you, and I hope you have a good day.